Hi, this is a quick video on creating content for online classes. So if you think about a student doing online classes, they are in their imagination thinking of you, the instructor, and how you're guiding them through the content. So in an online mode, we're going to have to create that content and that guide. In addition, because of the stress that we're going through right now at putting things online, there's also a lot of stress associated with the students, which makes it harder for them to think. So I think there's going to be sort of two main areas that we'll want to attend to when we think about what do the students need. I think they need reassurance, and we need to think about how they're feeling as they're moving on into this online environment. The other thing is we're going to have to be very organized in the way that we present content because we're not going to be there right in front of them. We need to try our best to make the organization clear. Now, for reassurance, what I might do things like just use kind words in emails and empathy about where they are in this process of switching over. Give them some information on grading because this is something they're often worried about, especially right now through this change. And I would also say we want to be flexible. And I would also ask you to think about other ideas of how we could give students reassurance and help them to relax in this process. But when we think about our own content and how we're going to be organizing it, the ways that I think it's best that you can actually use Canvas to organize it is to create modules. And within each modules, we're going to put the content and then the assessment method. So I'm going to go through all of this and then some other tips as we look at online teaching. So one good thing about Canvas, or a couple good things about Canvas, is it can be a linear progression through the topics. You can use a repeatable structure from module to module as you go from each content area from one to the next, and the students then can expect that organization. You also can make class announcements to the whole class so that everything regarding the class is in one place. So let's look at modules. So modules, this is a picture of a Canvas site that I created. And in this picture, you can see three different modules. Actually, in my class, I create a module for every class meeting, but it can be organized various different ways. It can be organized by course content by weeks, units, chapters. It allows the students to see the big picture organization of the class. Now, I know we're in the middle of the semester, so this big picture isn't quite as important, except for it is as the students are transitioning from one way of getting the information to another, that they have some comfort in the whole arc of the class. So let's look at content and assessment. So this is a picture of one of my modules. So I've put content in here at the beginning where I say, watch this video. So I have them look at something, and then on the assessment, I have them do a worksheet and submit it here. So in each module, I give some information, and then I have an assessment of that information, or it could also be a practice associated with that information. So like a homework assignment. And I would suggest that each module is kind of organized this way. And other examples of content would be give them a file to read. So you can load up a file. In this case, I have practice problems for the midterm, which is just a PDF file. You could also put in a YouTube video like I have multiple times in mine. I also always include the time of the video so the students know how long it's going to take to watch it. Another thing you can do is put in a web resource. So I use Investopedia. It's an extra resource for my students in the content area of engineering economy. So when we look at assessment, there's also a couple options for that. We can actually create a quiz. In this case, I usually just put one question. So after they watch a video, I have a question associated with that video. Just to track that they've watched the video, it's sort of a way of ensuring that they do that. You can also do this with exams, so multiple questions in the same quiz. These are mostly multiple choice, so you can have numeric or fill in too, but it's hard to get a full word problem, engineering type problem in these kinds of exams. Another assessment method you can use is a discussion board. So you can ask them, like in this case, I had them watch a TED talk about let's get honest about money problems and then ask them to reflect on that. Another assessment method is that I actually create a worksheet. So it says that cost benefit worksheet there. And then I have them work on the worksheet and then submit it through an assignment. And that's an assessment method related to another assessment rated method. So a few other things about Canvas that I think are interesting. One is the class announcements. So whenever I send messages to my students, they are recorded in the class announcements. So I can have a whole list of the different communications that I sent my students. So it's all in one place. And then it's just like sending an email. When I put an announcement, it goes to every one of the students on Canvas and to the students' emails. It's just like sending an email. So another thing interesting about Canvas is that there's a student view that you can look at where you can see what exactly the students are seeing. And it's on the upper right hand of the Canvas site. And so you can see what you see looks like this, which is which has some icons associated with editing and moving things around. But what the students see is this. So they have many of those things are gone from their view. And I think it's important so that we can check the things we're doing and make it look a little more organized, that we see what the students see. Also, grades and feedback. So on Canvas, there's a grading mechanism where you can see the students' grades. You can enter grades through assignments that you create, or you can enter them by hand, and there's various ways of doing that. CETL has a bunch of good videos on grade and gradebook, although it's a quite complex topic. And I would just say that if you want to get into it, there's some simple ways to do it, but there's also more complex ways, which many of them I do not even know either. I also use text headers quite a bit in Canvas in order to guide the students. So like for instance, this module for week 3, I have instructions for the students where they watch these videos, take this quiz, and then in class, we work on this worksheet. And I use this text header to sort of put in labels associated with the content that we're covering. Now, I hope that was a quick little look at how to do online video, online instruction. Of course, there's many, many more things that we could work on, but I think this might be a good starting place for you as you think about developing content. I also would focus us back to the idea of using reassurance for the students, thinking through what they're feeling in this process, and thinking about how we can be kind and understanding in their process also.